Welcome to Physical Science, one of the most important areas tested in the GED Science section. This lesson focuses on the core principles of matter, energy, motion, and basic physics and chemistry concepts. Everything in this lesson is carefully selected to match real GED test question styles and standards. Let's begin with the basics of all physical science, the structure of matter. To understand this, we start with atoms and elements. All matter, everything around you, is made of tiny units called atoms. Each atom has three key parts: protons, which carry a positive charge and are located in the center, called the nucleus; neutrons, which have no charge and are also found in the nucleus; electrons, which carry a negative charge and move around the nucleus in orbits. When we talk about elements, we are referring to pure substances made of only one type of atom. Examples include oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen. To help organize all known elements, scientists use the periodic table. Each element has an atomic number, which tells us how many protons are in its atoms. The elements are arranged in order of increasing atomic number. The horizontal rows are called periods and show the number of energy levels. The vertical columns are called groups and contain elements with similar properties. Understanding how the periodic table works will help you answer many GED science questions. Now that you understand the structure of matter, let's move on to how matter behaves in different forms and how it changes. Matter exists in different states depending on temperature and energy. The most common states are the following. Solid. This state has a definite shape and volume. An example is a block of ice. Liquid. This has a definite volume, but it takes the shape of its container. Water is a good example. Gas. This state has neither a definite shape nor a definite volume. It spreads out to fill any space. Plasma. This is a high-energy state found in stars and lightning. While it exists in nature, it's not commonly tested on the GED. It's also important to know how matter changes from one form to another. These changes fall into two main categories. Physical change. This type of change affects the form of a substance, but not its identity. For example, melting ice is still water. It just changes from solid to liquid. Chemical change. This type of change results in a new substance being formed. For instance, rusting metal or burning wood creates something entirely different from the original material. GED tip. On the test, you may be shown a real-life scenario and asked to decide if it represents a physical change or a chemical one. Be sure you can tell the difference. Next, let's explore motion and the forces that cause objects to move. This is a core part of physical science on the GED. Speed is how fast something is moving. It's calculated by dividing the distance traveled by the time it takes. For example, if a car travels 100 miles in 2 hours, its speed is 50 miles per hour. Velocity is similar to speed, but it also includes direction. So if that car is moving 50 miles per hour to the east, that's velocity. A force is simply a push or pull that causes something to move. It's measured in units called newtons. One common type of force is friction. Friction works against motion, like when you try to slide a box across the floor and it resists. Now let's look at Newton's 3 laws of motion. First, inertia. An object at rest will stay at rest, and an object in motion will stay in motion, unless acted on by a force. Second, force equals mass times acceleration. In other words, heavier objects take more force to move. Third, action and reaction. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For example, when you jump, your feet push down on the ground, and the ground pushes you upward. GED application. You may see a question with a diagram of a moving car, a ramp, or an arrow showing the direction of a force. You'll need to interpret that diagram to predict movement or apply one of Newton's laws. Energy makes everything happen, from motion to heat to electricity. In this section, You'll learn the key types of energy and how they transform. Types of energy. There are two major forms of energy you should know. Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. For example, a rolling ball or a moving car has kinetic energy. Potential energy is stored energy. A stretched rubber band or a rock sitting at the edge of a cliff has potential energy because of its position or condition. Energy transformations. The law of conservation of energy states that energy is never created or destroyed. It can only change from one form to another. Here are some examples you might see on the GED. A toaster changes electrical energy into heat energy. A car engine changes chemical energy from gasoline into both kinetic energy for movement and heat energy. A solar panel changes light energy from the sun into electrical energy. GED tip. You may be asked to identify what kind of energy is present in a situation, or how energy changes from one form to another. Focus on real-world examples like appliances, vehicles, or natural sources of energy. This section focuses on basic electricity and magnetism, two topics that often show up in GED science questions. Electric circuits. An electric circuit is a complete path that allows electricity to flow. An open circuit means the path is broken, so no electricity flows. A closed circuit means the path is complete, so electricity can flow. Common parts of a circuit include a battery that provides the electrical energy, wires that carry the current, a bulb or other device that uses the electricity. Magnetism. Magnetism is closely related to electricity. A magnetic field is produced whenever electric charges are moving. An electromagnet is created when electricity flows through a wire coil. This creates a temporary magnetic field, which can be turned on and off. Electromagnets are used in motors, speakers, and some types of locks. Understanding chemical reactions is important for the GED science test. You do not need to memorize complex formulas, but you should understand how substances change during a reaction. Reactants and products. Every chemical reaction starts with reactants and ends with products. Reactants are the starting substances. Products are the new substances formed during the reaction. Example, hydrogen and oxygen combine to form water. You might see this written as hydrogen plus oxygen produces water. This means hydrogen and oxygen are the reactants, and water is the product. Balancing chemical equations. Chemical equations show the number of atoms before and after a reaction. The number of atoms must be the same on both sides. This is called the law of conservation of mass. GED tip. You may see a simple equation and be asked to identify the reactants and the products. Explain what is happening in the reaction. Focus on understanding the basic idea of how substances change. Recap. What you must know for the GED. Basic structure of atoms and elements. Recognize physical versus chemical changes. Understand motion, speed, force, and Newton's laws. Identify types and transformations of energy. Basics of electric circuits and magnetism. Simple chemical reactions and conservation laws. These concepts often appear in charts, graphs, diagrams, or simple text scenarios on the GED. Focus on understanding the meaning behind them, not memorizing advanced science terms.